everybody. Welcome to the first episode of a new series I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be going through all the Deadwood episodes, all 36, I believe of them, that there are, before we get to the movie, which is supposed to come out May 31st on HBO, I think. So I'm just going to be going at this alone. It'll be a solo adventure, so the episodes are probably going to be a little bit shorter. There won't be any Clay, there won't be any of that stuff, but I figured I wanted to get through all the episodes and do a series rewatch before the movie comes out, and what better way to motivate myself to stay on track than to actually have a podcast come out about it. Or not a podcast, so this will just be on YouTube. But anyway, what we're doing here is we're going to be talking about Deadwood. I'm going to be covering each of the 36 episodes. I'll be doing a podcast or an episode about each and every single one of them. Probably kind of a simple coverage. I'll just be going over the main themes or like something that I find kind of interesting to keep the episodes around 15 to 20 minutes probably. And I think that there was a lot of feedback from people online saying that they have either never seen the show or they haven't seen it in a long time and that they want to watch it. And I think that this would maybe be helpful for that. So let me know if you guys have any suggestions for how to cover this as we go through. I'm going to be trying to keep the pace up so that we get all the episodes done before the release of the movie, which is on May 31st again. But anyway, let's get into this. This is going to be about Deadwood, which was an American Western TV series aired on HBO from March 21st, 2004 to August 27th, 2006. It had 3 seasons, 36 episodes. It's set in the 1870s in Deadwood, South Dakota, before and after the area's annexation by the Dakota Territory, and charts Deadwood's growth from camp to a town. It was created, produced, and largely written by David Milch. Deadwood features a large ensemble cast headed by Timothy Oliphant and Ian McShane, playing real-life Deadwood residents Seth Bullock and Al Swearingen. Other historical figures appear as characters, including George Crook, Wyatt Earp, E.B. Farnham, George Hurst, Wild Bill Hickok, Calamity Jane, and Jack McCall, and Charlie Utter. Plot lines involving these characters include historical truth, as well as substantial fictional elements. Milch used actual diaries and newspapers from the 1870s residents as reference points for characters, events, and the look and the feel. It received wide critical acclaim, the show did, particularly for Milch's writing and McShane's performance, and is now regarded as one of the greatest TV dramas of all time. It won 8 Emmys and 1 Golden Globe. TV Guide ranked it number 8 on their 2013 list of the 60 shows that were canceled too soon. So, Deadwood for me is one of probably my top 5 shows of all time. It's up there with like Sopranos, The Wire, Mad Men, and whatever the 5th one would be on any given moment, like Breaking Bad or something like that. So for dramas, I think that it really holds up well. And it's, one of the things that I always think about is how much you think about a series after it's over. And I think about Deadwood quite a bit. I think it's like a really remarkable, well-written TV show that I find really quotable and really sort of emotionally satisfying and very thematically interesting and everything. It's a show, as I said in the intro here, it's largely written by Milch. I think Milch is only credited as a writer on 5 of the episodes, but the production behind the scenes thing, which I'm not really get into too much in this podcast series, was particularly in the later seasons, was a very last minute thing. Milch was sort of writing the scripts as the scenes were being prepared. So he was frequently coming onto set with newly written material and giving it to the actors like right before they were supposed to start shooting. It was a very, very much a last down to the minute, operating behind the 8 ball kind of thing where, all of the writing was falling to David Milch. And what I think that really sticks out about the series for me, and we're going to get into it, is his dialogue is really kind of beautiful in a lot of ways. He writes them, I don't know how you describe it, and it's not really even prominent that much in the pilot, but it gets more as the series grows on and he becomes more comfortable writing for the characters. But he has a very flowery way of writing that is really evocative and really interesting and memorable in how characters speak to each other. And I think that just outside of that, he's really an excellent storyteller who has a whole total grasp of what he wants his stories to be thematically and where he wants his characters to be. And I think that the dialogue coupled with the thematic material, coupled with how the characters are drawn, really added up to something special. And it's one of those series that people will say it was canceled too soon. I would kind of disagree. I think that it went out before it could sort of burn out. And I think that that's kind of important. It does come to an abrupt end in the 3rd season, and hopefully the movie will kind of reconcile that a little bit. But just in terms of how far the show went and like where it ended up going and how much we saw of the characters and what we learned about them. I think it's really kind of a spectacular series, and I'd highly recommend people watch it if they haven't seen it. It's on HBO Now. You can watch all the episodes. I don't know if it's on Amazon at this point, but it's really, really something remarkable. And I guess I won't get too much into it now about that. We'll start breaking down the pilot. But I thought that over the 36 episodes, we'll talk a lot about the quotes that I like of the series and the dialogue choices and the thematic material, which is always going to be coming up. So I thought I'd start this out by playing a quote from Ellsworth, who is in this episode. And I think that he has the most Milchian Deadwood monologue, not a monologue, but he has the most extended dialogue that sounds like how the characters will eventually speak to each other. Not that it doesn't exist elsewhere in this, but this Ellsworth quote is kind of a great example of Milch's dialogue coupled with explaining the setup for the series in terms of being a pilot and for what the theme that they think is going to be happening. So it's the hammered flatter than shit quote, and I'm going to play that right now.
8 ounces of gold at $20 an ounce is $160 plus $10 for a half ounce makes $170 total.
Inform your dealers and whores of my credit and pour me a goddamn drink.
Honor and a pleasure, my good man. 170 credit, Dan, for Ellsworth.
Oh, yes, sir. 170 for Ellsworth. I'll let everybody know. Plot 4, some hardware guys.
First one today with this hand. And pour me another, my good man.
Here comes another. Lot 4 is stayer.
Wagon loaded with goods.
Now, with that limey damn accent of yours, these rumors true that you're descended from the British nobility?
I'm descended from all them cocksuckers.
Well, here's to you, your majesty. I'll tell you what. I may have fucked my life up flattered and hammered shit, but I stand here before you today beholden to no human cocksucker and working a paying fucking gold claim. And not the U.S. government saying I'm trespassing or the savage fucking red man himself or any of these limber dick cocksuckers passing themselves off as prospectors that better try and stop me.
They better not try it in here.
God damn it, Swearingen. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you, but I enjoy the way you lie.
Thank you, my good man.
And the reason that I really like this quote, besides the memorable images of being hammered flatter than shit, and the use of cocksucker, which is kind of a thing that the series became famous for. You've heard Clay talk on the podcast, the Star Trek podcast, about any Western needs to feature a lot of cocksuckers because that's kind of Milch's addition to the canon of that genre. But the series is famous for being pretty profane and with these little like lyrical flourishes to the dialogue. And I think Ellsworth sums up that entire thing here. His speech is really memorable, and it's also a very good thesis statement for the series where he is talking about, he's moved west and he's come out to Deadwood, which is this territory that is not claimed by the U.S. government or the Indians really at this point. It's kind of in this no man's land where the law hasn't come out there and civilization hasn't come out there yet. And he is free to pursue his life to the best of his ability, and no one else can tell him what he's going to do out here because he's the ultimate free man out in this territory. And it's a very American spirit, settling the West kind of mentality. And the big theme of Deadwood that pretty much covers all the storylines is how civilization arises from chaos. And Milch is very interested in that. And a lot of as the seasons progress and as Deadwood develops, a lot of the conflict of the story is how you reconcile being free and living in a society with each other, where the benefits of society start to become more obvious at the expense of personal freedoms. And the series develops that as the town develops. And early on in the series, this pilot starts off by everyone moving out to Deadwood. Everyone is kind of searching for the next step in their lives. Everyone is looking for some kind of freedom or a new beginning, whether it's Bullock leaving his job as the Montana lawman and coming out there to start a hardware store with his buddy Saul Starr, or if it's Wild Bill Hickok, who seems to be at a new point in his life where he wants to kind of escape his past and he wants to go out to this place where no one can bother him anymore, even though that doesn't seem to be the case for him, down to Swearingen, who has started this business out there, and he's trying to protect his business interests from anyone that could interfere, be it the Pinkertons or just competitors. It's really the where the series starts off at is they're literally building the town. They're coming in on these mud roads through the mountains, and as they're walking in or riding into town, everyone is assembling and building their shops around them. There's a lot of tents at this point, but guys are working on building more saloons. They're working on building more buildings that are going to be more permanent than that. And the lawlessness nature is really a big part of this series at this point. There is no law in Deadwood. Deadwood is I think it's an illegal settlement, so don't quote me on that, but I think that it's considered illegal by the U.S. government. And the U.S. government has no authority out there. They're on Indian territory. So it is this kind of great escape that all the characters are going to. And I think that all the character arcs kind of highlight that. They all show that this is where the town is at this point, mostly through Bullock, who is ostensibly the main character at this point, but it's really an ensemble piece. And I think that to tie it back into the Ellsworth thing, he is talking about how this is the ultimate freedom for him. The pilot is setting this up as all the characters coming out here for the gold that they claim is out there. The prospectors are trying to dig the gold, and everyone else is trying to make a little money on the side off of that, either by selling hardware to the prospectors or by offering prostitutes or alcohol or a place to stay. So everyone is kind of building their industries off of this gold rush that's going on out there. And then you have other characters such as the Brahm character who's coming out, and there's the naivete of the New Yorkers who are coming out to try to make their way and everything. And I think it does a really good job of setting up. The pilot sets up a lot of mini stories that combine into a greater whole while also introducing a lot of the characters. But the stories work very well by showing you what the characters are all about. I think you have a very clear idea of what all the main characters in the show are about at this point, and they've really only been on screen for about 50 minutes. You get a sense of Bullock as the lawman who's trying to get away from the law, although it seems he's not going to have an easy time getting away from his past. He's the character who insists that they go out after this the murder on the road, that the guy comes back, the family was killed, and Bullock is the one who sort of insists that they go out there. As the series goes on, you'll see that Bullock is like the lawful good. I don't know if that's the right thing. He's kind of the authority figure who believes in doing the right thing, even if his personality is not particularly well suited for it. His unbendingness towards doing the right thing frequently causes him problems. He's the opposite of Swearingen, who's more willing to bend for things and more willing to become morally compromised in order to get what he considers to be the best solution. Bullock is always the one who thinks that he's going to get he's going to do the moral thing and consequences be damned. And in this case, it's him forcing the guy to go out and ride out to show them where the family was. And you get a sense of Hickok, who's tired, but he's kind of the same mold as Bullock. He seems to be the same kind of person who's wanting to do that kind of thing, but he seems at the end of his career as opposed to Bullock, who seems to be at the start of it. Swearingen, you get a lot of great scenes of how he interacts with his coworkers, how he works with the prostitutes that he employs, and how far he's willing to go to keep everything kosher for his business. He's willing to murder. He's willing to lie, cheat, and swindle. And Farnham works for him. Farnham is I love the Farnham performance too. I think Farnham is probably one of my favorite characters. I think he's just so well written. He's the inn owner. He's so well written and so slimy and so horrible, but you get a really good sense of him. And I think that, especially if you've been listening to our Discovery coverage, the show's writing just really shines through. Is like everyone from the start is wonderfully highlighted as a fully fleshed character who has something going on, and you can kind of place where they belong in this world. And I don't know how much, I don't think there's really much else that I can really say about it. It's just a neat little pilot that sets up things very well. And I think that while there might be some confusion about the role of the Brahm thing, where they're trying to rip off the New Yorker guy by setting up a shady deal where they are all kind of playing him into overspending for this gold mine that he buys eventually. And I think I'm going to maybe float a few questions to the audience. My understanding of that is that they try to set up Brahm to buy it for $14,000, to buy the gold or the parcel of land for $14,000 that he can prospect on. And the guy who's selling it, the Irishman who sells it to him, Driscoll, I think his name is takes it on his own initiative to push it up to 20,000 because he realizes that is how much the guy has available to spend. And so they figure they'll take him for all he's worth. And the reason that Swearingen is against this and the reason that he has Driscoll killed at the end is because he doesn't want such a flagrant deal to catch the attention of the authorities who would come out and bother him about it. He calls them the Pinkertons. I don't know what authority the U.S. government would have, but I think that they would have like private eye, sort of like the family would get involved at that point and request that someone be investigating him for what he's done and how like egregious of a deal that it was. So that's my understanding of how that works. And I think that whole scene really works well to set up Brom, his wife, Alma, and Swearingen and Dan Driscoll. It really, such a simple rip-off storyline really allows all the characters to show you how they work with each other. Swearingen is kind of pulling the strings in a very Machiavellian way. Dan Doherty is his muscle, who is also the enforcer, who goes along with the plans. Brom is the naive New Yorker character who's going to come out in his brand new prospecting suit to go with his brand new like gold pot thing that they use to sift the water. And he's going to march off and, you know, look the parts and at least be acting like he's the free man when he's really the one who understands the least of anything that's going on. And, you know, it ends with the sort of great stand of Bullock does the right thing, although he's lucky that Hickok is there because I guess the episode doesn't make it clear who shot him, but I think it's heavily implied that Hickok was the one who shot the guy at the end, with the question about Hickok checks in with Star about whether or not Bullock is good enough with a pistol that he doesn't have to interfere or get involved in it, and then he decides to get involved with it. It's a really, I think everything just highlights the characters so well. It's really a remarkable little pilot that is brutally efficient in what it demonstrates and how things are going on. Features a lot of great dialogue, features that Milch lyrical flourish stuff that I really enjoy, and I'm going to get into more as we move along. And I think that it's just a wonderful little 50-minute episode that starts off a pretty great series, in my opinion. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to go through them. We'll have to get through this kind of blitzkrieg and go very, very quickly. But let me know if there's anything that I should add to these episodes of these recaps. Let me know if I should do more of the quote stuff, if we should just focus on that, or we should focus on the plot. I'll probably stay away from the plot for the most part. Like, I won't get too into the weeds of what's going on because I think that won't really work with how short these episodes are going to be. But focusing on the overall storyline, I think, will be really effective. And let me know what you guys thought. If you're following along or watching the show for the first time, or if you're doing a rewatch, or if you just think it's one of your favorite shows and you know a lot about it and you want to share, let me know. I'm sure there's tons of trivia and backstage stuff that we get to read about afterwards. That's it. So, thank you very much. Or should I just... I'll give one more quote here, I think. Jack McCall, who is the card player who's giving Hickok a hard time in this. There's a quote here that I wanted to read because I think it's pretty good. Jack McCall says, "Should we shake hands or something? Relieve the atmosphere? I mean, how stupid do you think I am?" And Wild Bill Hickok's retort is, "I don't know. I just met you." It's Deadwood. Good quotable stuff. I like it a lot. All right, I'll be back with the next episode of Deadwood after this, and I think it's called Deep Water, something like that. I think it's called Deep Water. I'll check in when I'll look right now. It is Deep Water. So I'll be back. Let me know what you guys think, how the show's going, and otherwise I'll see you in a couple of days with Deep Water.